Hi everyone, it's Tuesday, and for the next few weeks it's going to be Quilting Tuesday. So what do we have planned? This is like a quilt along type of project. So welcome everybody. In case you don't know, I'm Jerry Ford. So we're going to make this table runner. And what we're going to do, this is sort of takes place of our machine quilting club that we had at the store. So we're essentially going to have our machine quilting club. And so we're going to be making this table runner, and with this table runner we're going to investigate how to do background fills, because you see there's all kinds of background fills. So this is really good practice, and we're going to there's approximately 20 of these fills that we're going to investigate over the next 5 weeks. So we have a lot to do, and it's busy right now. So this will be a fun project. I've made this one once, and I'll make this other one for my best friend, so she needs a new table runner. Only I think this time I'm going to round the edges, make them nice and round, because she has a big oval table that'll look really nice. So anyway, this one, just get a piece of scrap, and it's about, it's the width of the fabric, selvage to selvage, and just get any background fill, something that you can see your stitches. You want to pick a thread that isn't really thin, unless you're really comfortable, or unless you're really new to machine quilting. Then you probably want to stick to the thinnest thread you can get, because I think a few weeks ago we talked about thread and quilting, and that the thinner the thread, the less you notice the stitches, and the more you notice the pattern. Well, and then the thicker the thread, you'll still notice the pattern, but you're really going to see the stitches, so you're going to see if they're uneven and whatnot. So you can make it a tone on tone, so that it recedes into the background, but I want you to maybe pick something a little bit darker so that you can learn and be comfortable with your stitches. Guaranteed by the time you're done with this, you're not going to be afraid to quilt anything. Okay, so today we're going to concentrate on putting this quilt sandwich together, and it's going to go over to no matter how big a quilt you have. I do not clear my living room of every couches and everything just to put a quilt on the floor to baste it into place. I'm not getting on the floor anymore. It's too hard to get up. So that happens when you're over 29. So I'm going to show you how I put a quilt together just using my cutting table. And I did that 108 inch by 108 inch quilt on that cutting table, and it actually basted very nicely. So here's what we do. So let me adjust this camera. Well, first of all, I'm going to show you how to splice batting together, because like my batting was 90 inches wide, so I had to put 2 pieces together to make it fit. And but I don't like putting one on top of the other and zigzagging, because that leaves a lump there, and when you're quilting it you can really feel when it goes through that lump. And to me, wherever you have a lump is a wear spot on that quilt. That's where your fabric is going to wear the fastest. So I'm going to do this thing, this new one, out of scraps. I'm going to put that aside. Say this is the size of my table. So that's all the size I have to work with. And my quilt is bigger than that. So, and then I need to splice these 2 pieces together. So I know this is too small, but the 2 together were just fine. So let me turn this wheel this way. And this is just an old piece of batting. And this way you can use up all your scraps. Okay. You take a ruler. Here's my ruler. And I'm going to, further, and I'm going to cut down the middle of it, because I want a straight edge where I'm putting this thing together. Right? Take this top piece away. This is what I use to splice it together. It is nylon tricot interfacing. They have it in Joann's. It's a knit and it's fusible on one side. It's very lightweight and sheer, and this is what I use to splice it together. I think Marty, Michelle, and a bunch of other people have this already cut, and you're going to pay a lot more for it. I think Marty, you got to first of all figure out what side's got the fusible, because guess what? You'll ruin your iron quickly if you put it on the wrong side. And the nylon tricot one that's nylon, it's going to fuse at a low temperature, which is what I like, because I'm going to, right on this cutting board, I'm going to take my iron, now let me fix that. I want those to just butt close together. Come here, iron. Put this on the top and just touch it till it fuses. No, it's not even on. Okay. You don't have to, you're not going to be here long enough, not even to warp my mat. Okay. Not quite hot enough yet. Come on. It's not sticking. I like this little iron. It does heat up quickly. Okay, so it's fused on one side. I'll usually either reach in or turn it over or whatever and remove the other side. So here's the other piece that was cut. And then I'll put, if I really want a good bond, you don't always have to do it in half, because see, these are just kissing each other. But usually I like to double fuse it, so I'll put this on the back and fuse again. And that is good enough. Once you quilt it, you're done. You don't have to zigzag it. You don't have to needle punch it, which is the only reason I bought an embellisher, which is that needle punch machine. Okay. It's ready to use. I'll just snip the extra off. And that didn't quite fuse here, so just hit it again. Okay, it's ready to use. Okay, now let's get back to our quilt. Okay, this is bigger than my table. So I will take my batting piece and I will fold it in half, just so it's long, wherever it's long enough. Oops. And in half again, the lengthwise, so that I can, then usually I'll spray it because it's a cotton batting, and I want to make registration marks. I want to see those creases. Dry it. Okay, so now I can see the creases, the fold lines. Okay, then the next thing you need for your table, so you need round toothpicks. Box, how do you open it? Okay, so I need 4 of them. So I'm going to take this toothpick. I'm going to find the center of all 4 edges, and this is what? This I can tell. I usually will measure it, okay? And then I'm going to take tape and cover that toothpick right on that line. And I'll do that for all 4 edges. Because this way gives me the center. And one more. Okay. I've also pressed crosshatch crosshairs into my backing and my front. So the first thing you do is you're going to put, I'm going to put this at the edge of the table because I'm going to show you what I use for clamps. So I can see, I can't see, but I can feel. So a lot of times I will take this in half. There's my two, and I can guess where my metal is because I can feel it here. And then I will lay this over, and I can feel the lines. Now, on my table, I have clamps. When it's at the edge of the table, I like to use clamps. And these are the kind of clamps that I use. Two different kinds. But you can use that kind too. I don't like these. These are too bulky. Here's my favorite ones. Okay. When it's small enough, you really don't have to do much. These are what hold picnic tablecloths down. You can get them at I got these at the dollar store. So you would start to clamp. So you'd start in the middle, and well, it won't clamp on that side. Only open the drawer, it'll clamp. Or not, there. See, it'll clamp in. On these, this is a flat edge, so I can't clamp it. But usually this just fits on the end like this, on the end of the table. Like say that's the table, and that holds it in place. And I put these all around. Just the backing, and this would be the backing with the wrong sides up. I'm going to tape this for now because this is so small. Out of the way, and I'll just tape them. This one I'm not going to put too many on here because it's just small enough, it doesn't matter. Okay? Now I take my batting, and the batting is folded in quarters. Okay, here's my batting. Okay, and I can see the crosshairs. So I start, I can see that, and I can feel it. I can feel the toothpicks through. So usually all I have to work with is this because everything else is draping on the side. So I would use a little bit of basting spray, put this over. When it's really big, it helps to have a buddy. My husband actually helped me do this. Okay, then I would fold this on this side because that's already stuck, and spray there. Put this side down. I like 505 spray, it is my favorite. Okay, and then I would spray this side. It's best to spray your fabric because the batting just absorbs most of the adhesive. So, and then you start in the middle, pat to the edge of your surface, pat to the edge of your surface. Okay? Now, you can feel those toothpicks through here. Smooth out any wrinkles and take out any fuzz, because if it's light colored, you'll see it glowing through like a lantern. Okay, where my other side go? Here's the front of my quilt. Same thing, it's folded into quarters. So I laid this here. I can feel that edge. It's down here. Feel this one. And I can see these lines from the batting. And then just same thing. Repeat the process all over again. And this is going right there. Fold this one over. We almost had Lily, but she heard the spray bottle, so she thinks it's the water bottle, and she thinks she's in trouble. Okay, and then my surface here's the edge of my table. Then I reach over and start in the center and pat it towards the outer edges. Okay, at this point, I usually pin. And I have a bucket full of pins. Whole lot of pins here. I do not bother to close them. Why? Because then you have to open them and your hand hurts. So I pin and spray base because as you saw over there, I really sling around my quilts. This thing keeps shifting on me. I sling them around all over the place, so I'm really hard on the basting. So I start in the center, and I usually put, the reason I don't close them is because you just have to open them again, so I just put a bunch up on here. Now I'll usually mark my quilt if it needs marking. I tend not to mark, so I don't have to. I hate to mark, because you got to get the marks out. There's other things I do. Now I usually will mark when I'm doing feathers and just the spine, or if I have a pattern, I tend to use that golden threads paper in order to mark the quilt. That's why I like to do feathers. I don't need to mark feathers other than the spine and the boundaries. Okay, so now I'm done with this center. Now I will close all these clips. I have my tool, but it's downstairs. Yeah, it's not in here. It's on the cutting. It's on my cutting table. Okay, it's not going to hold. And you want to put them, you don't have to, when you are not using basting spray, they need to go a lot closer than this. But basting spray holds a lot of it. So then I would release any tape I have. Piece of tape. And I had a clamp. Oh, I took the clamp off. Okay, so now this is the longest part of my table, so I usually will take this over and just scoot it over so that what hasn't been quilted is on the table. Again, I will lift these two up, which right now that was pretty much the end. Well, let's just say we go the other way. See, this is already, it's close enough. I tend to pin really carefully along the edges. But now I need to move this way. So I will scoop the whole quilt all the way to the end to where my table, or as much as I need. Yeah, you may have to do this 2 or 3 times. Then I clamp this side. I will clamp the part that's already basted. Pull these back. Pull this back, straighten out my backing, get it nice and taped down and taut, and then you start the process all over again. Okay, and then pin and baste. Or baste, I usually use the spray, because now you can just keep moving these. And I usually tend to move it so that I feel I didn't this time, but you feel the toothpick along the leading edge so that you know you're straight. So you can feel the toothpick on this side, here it is. The toothpick would be right here and right here, and now I know I'm lined up. And it's good to go. Then when I finish that side, I will come down and move it this way to the other end. So here's my center. I feel the toothpick, and I can feel the toothpick here. It's all lined up. Then I peel back the batting. Make sure my backing is nice and taut and straight. Put that down. And then this side. And that, in a nutshell, is how I baste my quilts, no matter how big they are. Okay? And then I would pin. So, like a lot of times, like, you know, if you have this center axis, if you have your center done, and this is the length of my table, if you work all the way to the end on one side, then you work all the way to the end on the other side, then I'll come back to the middle, scoot it down this way, and I may have to do this a few times until I'm at the end, And usually all I have is the corners, and then when I go to the corners, I'll just pull that corner of what I haven't basted onto the table and baste. So that's ready to go. And like I said, I do not put I just leave them in there. I had lent my pins to someone and they thought they were being so nice to me by closing them all before they gave them back. I was not happy. Okay, so now this is ready to quilt. Okay, so what I want you to do here is the first thing I do with a quilt is I stabilize it. So I'm going to draw and what I want you to do is to draw on your piece. And where's my friction pen? There's a friction. I want about 20 different, draw a line, intersect them, just make a bunch of random, go in the middle, get at least 20 of them. It can be all over the place. So this is your homework to get this far. And just divide up your piece into as many as you like. You can have more than 20 if you want, because we're going to put a different background fill in every single one. Let's go this way. And I'm just randomly drawing. So anyway, what I want you to do is set up your table runner. Pick your fabric, baste your sandwich together, and draw your lines. Because now we're going to start quilting, and the first thing I do is I'm going to stabilize all my stitching. See that lovely mess over there? Oh my God, it's like I'm never going to finish this quilt. Okay, I'm going to put the free motion foot on. This out of the way. This is from the other day. And you're going to see how lazy I am, because I hate to thread needles. So what I did was I left it threaded here. And I'm just going to tie this to do. I love this machine. I hate threading it. So I just tied a knot, and I'm pulling it through like a surgeon, not hurting it. We'll thread the needle. Like I said, the first thing I'm going to do is stabilize my quilt, which is usually I'm going to do all my stitch in the ditch with either the walking foot or free motion. I've now gotten to where I pretty much do it free motion. But, or you can use, like I said, you can use your walking foot. And that's, bobbin's not in there, right? Because it's pulling too hard. Yep, it's locked. Oh, that bobbin is way too tight. If you have a rotary machine like this, you want your bobbin tension to be a little looser than normal. If you have it, if you have a drop-in bobbin, you want to make sure that you have a bobbin case that, use the sewing bobbin case. It was too hot, way too tight, so let's talk about whether I like this bobbin or not. Yeah, no, see, it's not moving anywhere. That's way, way too tight for the type of thread I have. So I'm going to loosen it a lot, that one. There we go, now it's too loose. Okay. With this machine, because I know it is, you want it to come down, it's still little too tight. You can get it just, and you want to move this like a minute at a time. See how that's coming down as I wiggle it? That's what I want. I don't want it to free fall, and I don't want it to hang there and, you know, like a Christmas ornament. Okay, so, and let's bring up this and test it. And I have some extra on the side, so I'm going to test my bobbin here. So test the tensions. And usually you pull up that bobbin thread. There we go. And let's test it. Oh, I'm going to lower my feed dogs, which I haven't done yet. Okay. A lot of people say that they don't lower their feed dogs. It adds a little bit of friction to it, and that can be the case. But the problem when your feed dogs are up is that after you've, especially if you quilt rather densely, if you have the feed dogs up, they're going to catch on the thread on the other side, because see how they go side to side. But if you take you have thread there and you say take a diagonal, the feed dogs are going to catch on that thread underneath. So it's best just to lower them if you can. Okay, let's test this. Good tensions, not a problem. And I'll show you what I'm looking for. I'll go slower. That's too fast. Okay, and you always warm up, and what I want to do is, because I've been working on that thing's a lot faster, and the foot pedal is a lot less sensitive. You have to really push to make it go fast. I was going too fast here, so let's take a look at this tension. Okay, here we go. This is the bottom. That is looking good. I don't see any knots. More importantly, even if I couldn't see them, I could hear them if they were wrong. And when they are a little, I take that, I couldn't see them, but listen real carefully. Hear that clicking? Those are the little knots. So that means I'm going to ratchet up my tension and the needle, and let's test it again. Just do. Sorry, my thread wrapped around the needle. There we go. Okay, and let's test this again. And I usually will make circles and change angles because I'm looking for skipping stitches too. Better. Let's take a look at this now. Okay, and here, this does look better. Let's see that? And more importantly, I do not hear any clicking when I scratch at it. If I heard, like over here, it's hard to hear over everything, but it was clicking. Then I know my tension's not right. Okay, and so let's talk about starting and stopping. And I've got to draw some more on here, but this is good enough for now. Okay, so how I start and stop. Okay, I'm going to put the needle, put the presser foot down, needle up, and pull bobbin thread up. Start back in the same hole. Presser foot down. That one doesn't have a presser foot, so I tend to forget. Hang on to the threads and do little, about 3 or 4 little tiny stitches really close together. Okay? And then it helps. I don't like gloves. I can't stand gloves. I like these things. This one's too big. Rubbermaid drawer liners. That's all this is. It's from the dollar store. You get a big roll for $1. It's on a big roll. These are what I like to use. It's too big. So, see this? I can grip and I can still lift and touch my thread all I want. Too far. Okay, and so now I'm going to start to go at an even pace. And for this one, we're just going to outline. Don't get hung up on whether this is perfect or not, because you know what we're going to do after we're done? We're going to put some nice thread in the sewing machine and just do a nice stitch to cover any ickiness. So therefore, we're going to be going up and down these lines a lot. I just want to have a boundary for now. So it doesn't matter. Oops. There's this knot. There's a knot in my thread, sorry. Helps to get everything out from underneath the bed. I'm used to that big machine. It's like, this is in my way. Okay, I'll come over here. Don't worry if it's not on the line. I'll come up here. I'm going to come back over here. And I'm just going to do all my outlines. And this way you don't have to be careful about whether you're getting it straight, because you're gonna put a pretty decorative stitch over that. No one's gonna see that. Okay, see, this is one boundary. And does anyone not know how to stipple? No? I think everybody pretty much is just used to plain old stippling. So anyway, so I'm just doing my area. Come back over here. Okay. Because in every one of these, we're going to do a different background fill. Oh, speaking of tensions, whenever you change bobbins, check those tensions every time. For stippling, if you're not familiar with stippling, it's the classic puzzle piece. I usually, well, the reason that I stipple so well is because my husband says that's how I drive. I have no sense of direction, so I go all over the place all the time. That is not true. I am I am a good driver. This came out too. Okay, so it is a lobe. Think of a puzzle piece, and you want to try not to make stitch yourself into a corner. So I usually start at one end and work my way out. So I have two lobes and then I change direction. That's how I keep it going. Okay, two lobes. Change direction, and if you have to echo back out, do that. Sometimes I'll do it when I get lost. See that little C? That's what happens when you know I don't know where I'm going, so I sweep around in order to find out where I am. And I do better not thinking about it at this point. Change direction. Two lobes, change direction. Two lobes, change direction. And I want to come back over here. So change direction. And I want to kiss the edges because we're going to cover that up later anyway. And so how you want to hold your quilt. I learned this from Philippa Naylor, who is in England, and she has won Best Machine Quilting like Houston, Paducah, everywhere. And how she handles her quilts is she does the same thing. I don't know if she uses Rubbermaid drawer liner pieces, but I take this and I pinch it, especially when it's near the end, because now I've made myself a handle. And see, I have this one. I don't usually, but I could make myself a handle if I wanted to. This one I usually don't, but my right hand up for some reason I do. Because now I've made a guide and keep both hands on. You don't want to push on the table. You want to just keep it light. You want to prepare your surface so that it's nice and slick. Some people use those Supreme sliders. If you do, make sure you tape it down. I've had the Supreme slider on this thing and it let loose and I sewed the Supreme slider to the back of the quilt. That was not wonderful. So tape it down so it doesn't pop underneath the quilt and you start sewing it in. You also want, if you don't have that, usually just plain pledge You just clean it. Make sure it's not sticky. Especially if you've been using sprays, put some alcohol on your table to get all the spray residue up. So you want the surface to be slick. Ideally, you should have a flat surface, because anytime you go over a corner, that causes resistance and drag. You want to be able to support the weight of the quilt, which is what I'm doing over there. See over there? If you can see, I've got it all supported up against the window or against the wall, and I've got it spilling over against the wall over there, and it'll occasionally I'll clear this and it'll spill onto this table. And in my lap, I usually keep back. When it's in my lap, I'll sit there and keep doing this. I will fluff it up in my lap so that I just keep what is right around my hands is the only thing I care about being flat. The rest of it can be all over the place. I don't care. I call it fluffing stuff. I don't think I came up with that. I think someone else called it fluffing stuff. So, let me finish this. Oh, too fast. This one's a lot more sensitive. Well, there is also a speed governor on the tiara, because no matter how hard I press down, it'll only go a certain speed, and this doesn't have that. And I haven't quilted on this in a long time. Let me get this a little faster. It's actually easier to quilt on the baby lock sewing machines that have a speed governor, because you can set that top speed, and then you rest all of your foot weight onto the foot pedal, and you don't care. It doesn't matter. You will only go so fast and no faster. You can go slower, but you can't go faster. But you want the lobes and the stitching to be about the same distance apart. 1/4 inch is stippling. Anything bigger than 1/4 inch, it's still sort of stippling, only they call it meandering, but it's the same daggone stitch. Okay, almost done. And I'll finish it in the end, and it's done. Now to finish, raise your needle to the highest position, raise your presser foot, pull your fabric forward, trap your thread in your hand, go back to the original spot, lower your presser foot and put needle down, needle up. Then when you, the needle all the way up, I said, there we go. Now when you pull it, see, there's my bobbin thread. And usually just before I'm ready to tie the knot, I'll do 3 or 4 stitches really close together again, so that it'll lock the stitch. And see over here where I locked it originally, it's not pulling out. I did 3 tiny stitches together and it's not pulling out, and you don't see it on the back. If you were doing a show quilt or an heirloom quilt, I'd probably take a needle and leave the thread tails long so that I could bury it with a needle inside the batting, but you know, I'm not doing that anymore because I don't want to. So anyway, so this, you guys have homework to do. So your homework, just to repeat, is to make your table runner quilt sandwich and to mark off at least 20, you could do more, different sections that we're going to do a different background fill in every single section. So that's our project. So anyway, let's switch back over. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's lesson and hope you will follow this journey with me as we go through and investigate how we do background fills. Hopefully next time we meet, I'll show you what I've done so far, and hopefully I'll be done with this monster. It's huge. So anyway, have a great evening and take care. See you later. Bye.